Said this is a lounge. Culture and justice, you know you can trust that we holding it down. Well, you can bet we applying that pressure, it come by the pound. Speaking the truth and allow us to do what makes us so profound. That's why we got the crown. Said this is a lounge. Culture and justice, you know you can trust that we holding it down. Well, you can bet we applying that pressure, it come by the pound. We living better no matter the weather, we sticking around. Come see what we found. Yeah, this is the lounge. VSOP for the record, no better. Yeah, this for the wealth. Both of the people are equals, no better. To speak for the culture, our needs and our health. Conscious it reign with dignity, giving the keys to victory and being a man. Lift up the culture, protect it from leeches and vultures, and speak for who need in the hands. Cause this is the lounge.
Welcome back to the VSOP Lounge. I, of course, am your host, Captain of the Cool Kids, host of the Grown Man Logic podcast, DeJuan J. And I hope that all is well. If you guys have not done so yet, please like and subscribe. Turn on post notifications if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're hearing this via podcast, definitely subscribe to this podcast and show your boy some love. Our drink of the evening. Our drink of the evening out of that gorgeous 14.5 ounce highball glass available at shopgrownmanlogicpod.com. Shopgrownmanlogicpod.com. Our drink of the evening is a sake raspberry tea cocktail. Sake raspberry tea cocktail. And there's a reason that I picked this particular drink is because tonight is part 2 of Kill Bill. The series began last week where we discussed Beatrix Kiddo, or AKA the bride, and her struggle to overcome and break generational curses. And the question on the table is, how far are you willing to go to break a curse? But tonight, we have a Japanese-inspired cocktail because we moved to part 2 of Kill Bill. And again, that stands for bias, inadequacy, laziness, and lackadaisicalness. Bias, inadequacy, laziness, and lackadaisicalness. And tonight we're going to discuss and break down Miss Oren Ishii, portrayed by American treasure Lucy Liu. And so it's all Japanese, right? And we're going to discuss this. So, I mean, we're just going to jump straight into it. So if I asked you, who does this sound like? I'm going to give you a description and you tell me who this sounds like in your mind. Experienced childhood trauma, racism, sexism, disdain, dislike, and overcame the odds. You would say, that sounds like X. That sounds like King. That sounds like Garvey. That sounds like Newton. That sounds like Gates, Stephen Hawkins. Anybody who's done anything significant in this world had to experience some heartbreak, some trauma, and overcome some obstacles. So the question on the table tonight is, will you be remembered? And I think that it's important that we distinguish the difference between being missed and being remembered. When you pass away and all of this is gone, your life is over and people are at your memorial, are they missing you or are they remembering you? And it's all about how you finish life, the legacy that you left, the impact that you played on other people. Now, on the Grown Man Logic podcast, you hear me discuss frequently and frankly and candidly about upping the pressure, about being the best version of yourself. Hell, that's the foundation and the premise of the very show that you're watching right now. She was traumatized as a child. At the age of 9, Oren Ishii's parents were murdered in front of her. But let me pause and let me give the Easter eggs that Tarantino planted for us that we may have missed. In case you weren't aware, she had the longest backstory in Kill Bill Volume 1, the film by Quintin Tarantino. Why? It's because she wasn't just missed. She wasn't just another name on the list. She was actually remembered. She was remembered for being ruthless. She was remembered for her flashiness. She was remembered for her skill and her humanity. And that humanity came as a result of the childhood trauma, as a result of being discriminated against for her features that she could not help. 46% of children experience some form of trauma in their young lives. And after that, 15% of girls and 6% of boys develop some form of PTSD. And that manifests itself in forms like depression, anxiety, exhaustion, detachment issues, violence, angry, quote unquote, outbursts. But that's not how the story has to end. And that's what I'm trying to convey here tonight. That's not how the story has to end. There's two ways that you can deal with trauma. You can deal with it internally or externally. Internally, it begins to fester and it begins to boil, and to the point where it literally cripples you, to the point that you use it as a crutch. You use it as a crutch where, the way my anxiety is set up, it's become a meme. It's become a punchline. It trends on Twitter all the time. It trends on Instagram all the time. It trends on Facebook and all other social media platforms, anxiety and depression. And I'm not dealing with nobody and I'm not taking this. And to the point where, again, I said it last week and I'm going to say it again. This is the most unified that we've had the opportunity to be, yet the most divided that we take the opportunity to be. And it's sad. It's sad because this story, in my opinion, should have been the Vernita Green story. We'll get to that episode in the future. This episode you could have easily plucked this Japanese, American, Chinese woman out and replaced her with a black kid from the inner city. We endure this, or a neglected kid from the suburbs. We experience these things, and it's crazy because our lack of communication does not allow us to find commonality with one another. But what are we doing about it? What are we going to do? Now, I mentioned earlier that that's not how the story has to end. Well, Oren Ishii, she became an expert in business leadership. She didn't tolerate disrespect, treated everyone fairly, and kept her word and completed tasks. And this is after being one of the deadliest women in the world. This is after her parents were murdered in front of her. This is after she openly flaunted being the leader of the Japanese mafia, also known as the Yakuza. Right? And she found herself in rarefied air because she chose to overcome instead of allowing her traumas to hold her back. The difference is the same thing that I tell you every time that I have the opportunity. We have to do the work. Now, you've chosen either outwardly or inwardly to deal with your problems, but what are we doing? That's what matters. How many times have you seen the boss better not mess with me today? I got PTO. Oh, I'm crazy. Oh, I'm depressed. Oh, I don't feel like it. And we create these excuses. Right now, the biggest running joke that we have. It's the biggest running joke. Oh, I made plans to go out with people, but I'm really hoping that the plans get canceled. Why? Why does it come to that? Why not just say that you don't want to go? Where is our clarity in communication? We have to realize that her story is not unlike your story. It's not unlike my story. In this world today, more specifically the United States of America, the family unit is under attack. 64% of children are growing up in single family households. And as that number rises, the crime rate rose with it. The rate for attrition rose with it. The decline in high school graduations went with it. There's a correlation there. It's because in two-family households, there's the balance that we need. There's the iron fist and the velvet glove, so to speak. There is the balance between mom and dad. The strength and femininity is displayed and the strength and masculinity is displayed at the same time in a well-functioning two-parent household. And for those of y'all that are out there that are going to try and nail me to the cross for, what about co-parenting? No. We're not doing that. It's effective. It's great. It's good. Kudos to you. But now I need to focus. I need to focus on shifting us to do the work. What happens is we need a paradigm shift. We have to shift our mentality. We have to shift our body language. We have to shift our verbal language. We have to shift our dress, our understanding, and learn to balance. We need to learn what's too much and what's not enough. And we're talking about bias, inadequacies, laziness, and lackadaisicalness. No motivation to get up and do anything for yourself. We'd rather pack luggage for a guilt trip or blow up balloons for a pity party before we actually went out and did some work. It's sad. It's sad. We're in a state of disrepair, and we're beginning to lose the identity that has made this country, the United States of America, so strong. We are walking in, burning down our own property. We are shooting up schools. We are blaming and pointing the finger at one another when both sides of every argument has a little bit of the solution. But who's going to sit down first at the table? Do you feel like that it makes you weak because you sit down first? Or do you not like the fact that someone could be, for a second, standing over you? Is that why we cannot find a reason to sit down at the table and come to a resolution? The work has to be done. And some of the effects of this is helplessness, feeling less than, violence, anxiety, and depression. And for a solution, what do? We turn right to money. We're pacified by money. You get a slip and fall accident inside of a grocery store, and the first thing you do is sue the grocery store chain. Frivolous lawsuits, although they're being reined in, still remain at an all-time high. Because everybody's looking for a quick buck. Everybody's looking for the quick way out. Instead of actually doing the work, because what the work teaches you is how to not only appreciate, but how to maneuver so that you never find yourself in a poverty-stricken place again. And by poverty, I'm not just talking financially. I'm talking emotionally. I'm talking health-wise, mental health-wise. We don't want to overcome. We want it to be handed out to us. You look at the murder of George Floyd. You look at Ferguson, the Black Lives Matter movement, and anything of that nature, and you'll see that the government, they don't give a damn. They don't care. The NAACP was awarded $40 million in 2020 in government grants to shut up Sharpton, to shut up Jesse Jackson III, to shut up Benjamin Crump, to pacify these families. And it seems that the people that are affected the most, instead of banding together and encircling these other people to prevent this from happening again, it seems like that these people are just fading into oblivion. They get their money, they get their piece of change from the settlement, and they go. They show up when it's time for a photo op. Instead of actually doing the work. I digress. At the age of 9, Ring, her parents were murdered right in front of her by sword. Her father was a skilled martial artist. Mother was a beautiful homemaker. She had the wherewithal to hide, to escape, and set out on revenge because she was angry. And don't get it twisted. I'm not saying don't get angry. I'm here to address the proper channeling of these emotions. Again, she became expert in business leadership, so she knew how to handle her money. She didn't tolerate disrespect, so people had to deal with her fairly. She treated everyone fairly as a result of feeling and internalizing the disrespect that she felt. And she kept her word and completed her tasks, which spoke to her moral character and her moral aptitude, which made her trustworthy. Therefore, she fostered better relationships and she was able to maneuver through the world more easily. We have to shift the focus. We have to switch the paradigm because what we're doing is not working. What we're doing is not working. And in the film, she is in Tokyo. She is the leader of the Yakuza. They refer to her as the boss of all bosses. See, that's the thing. Everybody wants to be a boss until it's time to do what bosses do. Are you sleeping well? Are you getting up early? Are you getting active in your day-to-day life? What are you doing to give back if you're affluent now? What are you doing to foster the next generation's success so that they go further than us? So that they can further push the envelope? What are we doing? It's easy to take a picture in front of a fly car. It's easy to rock Gucci, Louis, Givenchy, Balenciaga. When you're spending half your check and you got a fly ass belt on trying to find some young lady to fuck on at a nightclub, but you're worried about if your lights are getting paid next week. You're worrying if every truck that drives by is the tow truck coming to repossess that $63,000 car that you have parked outside of a $22,000 duplex. It's maddening. It's saddening. It's depressing that everybody has seemed to figure this out except for the United States of America. 240 plus years this country's been in existence. We fought wars amongst ourselves and abroad. We have by far the most women's rights, though they're under attack now, granted, the most women's rights of any other country. Yet there's still a divide. There's still a divide in opportunity. There's still a divide in education. There's still a divide in wealth. There's still a divide in help. Because people have been programmed to accept their condition. But no, you don't have to. You can make it out of this. You don't have to accept your condition. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You're a victim of laziness. You're a victim of lackadaisicalness. You're a victim of bias and self-inadequacy. You're a victim of feeling like you're not worth it or that you don't deserve it. And the solution to this is not an overnight solution. It's not. I get it. But in order for you to go to work, in order for you to get out of the car, you first have to put one foot on the ground out of your bed. Small steps, baby steps. in order to channel this aggression that we have, in order to channel this energy and this creativity and this blossoming that's on the inside of us, we have to step out of bed first. And we're not. So I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear about bossing up. I don't want to hear leveling up. I don't want to hear, okay, fine, post your post or, this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, you and God know. You and God know. Are you channeling your energy in the right direction? Even on her deathbed, there was conversation. There was confidence in Miss Oren as she and the bride battled to the death. She was true to herself. She was still confident. She was still cocky. She still moved with flair. And she took the loss as it came. Too many of us try and maneuver out of these things. We try and finagle our way out of what we have coming. And we'll get to that next week when we talk about Bud. But real quick, before we get out of here, how do we go from corner boy to boss? How do we go from soldier to Don? How do we become made men? How do we become the boss of all bosses? You have to be willing to heal from your trauma. You have to accept the support of your loved ones. Seek help from a trained professional. Practice meditation and mindfulness, and incorporate movement daily. How does that incorporate to our story, DeJuan J? Well, I'm glad you asked. Oren was willing to heal. She healed herself. She accepted the support of loved ones. She had her lawyer next to her, there to the bitter end. She sought out help from a trained professional. She became one of the nastiest martial artists there was on this planet. And I'm pretty sure there was some therapy incorporated in there. She practiced mindfulness and meditation. And she was on the move daily. Stagnation can't get you if you're moving. Your health won't fail you if you're moving. Your emotions don't get the better of you if you're moving. How many times have you saw or seen someone depressed and their friends just need to go out and get them out of the house? They're moving, they're exercising. They're actually doing something with their lives. And that's how you become a boss of all bosses. With these things, you heal yourself. You're in prime optimum shape. You're a thoughtful and considerate person. You set your mind to task because you're able to do it. And you sought help from a trained professional, which indirectly puts you on the road to becoming a professional yourself. So I'll say rest in peace to Miss Oren Ishii. And shout out to the American treasure, Lucy Liu, for portraying this character and bringing the vulnerabilities out and ultimately teaching us a lesson. And shout out to the great man, Quintin Tarantino. We're going to leave that right there. And next week, we're going to talk about running from karma and how it always catches you. Please, by all means, hit the like and subscribe button. If you're looking for a glass such as this one, pajamas, t-shirts, and fragrances, stop by shopgrownmanlogicpod.com, shopgrownmanlogicpod.com, and as always, on Instagram Live, on the Grown Man Logic page, we are live every Monday and Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This has been another episode of the VSOP Lounge. See you next week. Cheers.